Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played recently where I ended up losing in really like a spectacular fashion to my opponent's Alapin Sicilian. An opening that is known at the highest level to be very solid and equal, but at an advanced level like this, not really advanced slash expert level like this, is a really difficult opening to crack with the black pieces, and I normally struggle with it. So let's get into the chess. My opponent starts off with the move pawn to e4, and I decide to play the move pawn to c5, which is the opening I normally play against pawn to e4. I love the Sicilian defense. It's gotten me a lot of good scores in tournament matches and online in rapid chess. My opponent goes knight to f3. This is all theory. I play the move pawn to d6, and my opponent goes to the move pawn to c3, which is the Alapin Sicilian with white, which already, as you can see from the engine, gives 0.00. But these positions are extremely difficult to play with the black side, as if you don't know what you're doing, you can play a couple moves and lose. For example, move like knight to c6, my opponent goes d4, cd4, cd4. Let's say I play a move like bishop g4, my opponent goes d5, and already the position is plus 1.5, and really I only made natural moves there. So in reality, you have to be really careful with these Alapin Sicilians, and I decide I play the best way. I know some theory here. I play the move knight to f6. The point is, it kind of stops the move pawn to d4, because I'm immediately targeting the pawn here. Obviously, you can't do this since I simply take. This is a decent trap. I can't take with the pawn because of queen a4 check, but I would simply recapture with the knight and be up a pawn. And other than that, my opponent has to defend the pawn, so either they play a couple moves here. The most logical move, the move that I see most often, is the move bishop to d3. And eventually my opponent's idea is to play the move bishop c2 and d4. I play a move like knight c6, bishop c2, let's say bishop to g4. Again, trying to stop this d4 push, and we get into a bit of like a scrap. You can't play d4 right away because cd, bishop takes f3, and g takes f3. We enter these structures, which are actually fine for white, but kind of my opponent has to know what they're doing with the pawns being doubled and such. Actually, the best move here is e6 for whatever reason, just stopping any push with the pawns again. But this is very difficult to play if you don't have previous knowledge of the position, which I really don't. I don't study these Alapins as much as I probably should. But instead of all this, instead of this bishop to d3 idea, playing like this, speaking of which, also my opponent has ideas like bishop e2, h3. There are many lines where you can sacrifice the pawn because I'm not actually threatening to take it. There's always queen a4. So I can only take it when it's d4. Instead of this bishop d3, which I was expecting and I thought he was going to play, my opponent defended the pawn with the move queen to c2 after around 10 seconds of thought. And here already I'm out of theory. I have never seen this move before in my life. Hands down, I've never seen this move before. And why is that? Why is queen c2 kind of an odd move? Well, first of all, queen c2 is a little bit strange because now you're kind of taking the gas out of d4. Normally the queen likes to stay on d1 to preserve this idea of d4 and try to push it like this. And also, I mean, bishop d3 just makes a lot more sense. But what my opponent's going for with this move is he's just trying to play d4 immediately, with the queen, with there not being any issues with defending this, with the queen already on c2 and not having to move the bishop back in two moves. So I have to start thinking, and I do that. I think for a good bit. I considered a lot of options here. First of all, my immediate idea is to just play knight to c6 and try to see if I can like weather the storm. So let's say knight c6, d4, takes. He has these two pawns in the center, his queen's kind of open, but I don't know, I might be able to have something with like bishop d7, after pawn here I can go knight here, takes, play that position. Do I like that position? Not really. The pawn on e5 is a little bit weak. Okay, so maybe I don't play knight to c6. What else do I play then? Maybe I play g6. Maybe I go with this and just kind of don't care about my opponent's advancements in the center. Like g6, d4. I can just play bishop g7, takes. And now that my opponent's queen isn't on d1, he doesn't have this idea of trading my queen. And that's probably what I should have played. Instead, I thought for a little bit, and I ended up eventually, after a minute, I ended up playing the move knight to c6, which is okay, but it does more or less walk right into this d4 business. And I had a plan. I had a bit of a plan here. By the way, the best move in this position is not g6, bishop g7. The best idea here is actually to play queen c7, which is a really nice move, just to stop d4 one more time, because now you can't take. Of course, the queen is hanging. And if you take with a knight now, it's not that bad because, well, you don't have two pawns in the center. You have a knight and a kind of a weak pawn, to be honest. So if I had found queen c7 in a game, I mean, that'd be really, really impressive. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. Knight c6, pawn to d4. And my intention here, after some thought, my intention here was that I kind of wanted to get a bit of like interesting play. I decided to play this move bishop to g4. And the point of this move was, of course, my opponent's not going to take on c5, dc5. He's not going to play this. He loses his two pawns in the center. My opponent's not going to do anything with like taking the pawn on c5. He's most likely going to play the move pawn to d5. And my idea there, I was going to take the knight, pawn takes, and maybe I was going to play knight to d5 and like bring the knight back after bishop to b5, stuff like this. But I quickly realized that there's a problem with this idea. And after the move pawn to d5, I play my idea, bishop takes f3. By the way, I spend, look at the time spent here, 30 seconds on this move. 30 seconds taking the knight. And after gf3, I realized that knight e5 is actually really, really bad. Like this is a huge mistake because of this move pawn to f4. And I really have to go back, and then my opponent kind of has a free hand over on the in the center of the board with moves like, for example, just bishop e3. My opponent can simply develop like this. Here, he comes here. I'm expecting this move bishop to b5 at some point. Stuff like this is going to happen, and I can't go forward in this position because if I go forward like this, my knight is just awful. On h4, my knight is doing nothing. Like, I can't enter the game. It feels like it's going to get trapped at some point. It is. f5, I have to play this move h6 to stop bishop g4. And then it just comes from bad to worse. Like, already e5 is a move. And I'm nearly losing because of queen a4 with this check on the king and the knight. These positions are very, very difficult, and I realized this. So after the move pawn takes f3, I realized that I have to be really, really passive and play this move knight to d8, which is really, really depressing. And now the idea is I'm simply going to go here and not allow f4 with a tempo. My opponent decides to play the move bishop to g5, which makes sense, trying to stop me from getting my pieces developed on the king side with bishop to g7 and castling, because if I'm able to do g6, bishop g7 castles, probably black is just fine. Like, there's no real advantage there anymore. Like, sure, white has the bishop pair, but in the long run it should just be equal because white has these doubled pawns and white doesn't really have a good use for them in those lines. But with bishop g5 here, if I play this move pawn to g6, I thought the position just goes much, much worse here after a move like bishop f6, ef6, and I just could not stand to bring myself to play this position. I do not know why. I thought this was just awful. It's not. He can actually just play like whatever, which is kind of funny. Like, he just plays like bishop e2. He plays like if I go bishop g7, my opponent plays like knight d2, knight b3, knight c4, long castle, stuff like this. And he just has an advantage because he has ideas like this and f4, f5, which is just, I didn't realize this at all during the game. And I thought, okay, I can't play g6 because he ruins my pawn structure and I don't really want to do that. So I'm just going to play this move knight b to d7, defend the knight like this. And if he takes, I will be gladly taking with the g pawn, actually, which I thought was pretty nice. The point of knight b d7 is not actually to defend the knight. It's simply to develop my knight out of the corner because I thought this is natural. I need to develop my knight. And if he takes, I'm actually taking with the g pawn to open up my dark sword bishop like this. And black is not doing that badly here. Computer even likes e takes, but I don't like this because of this pawn being a little weak in some endgames. But okay, I'm sure it's fine. Anyway, knight b d7, my opponent goes knight to d2. I play this move pawn to a6 after some thought. just removing the option for bishop to b5 in some lines. My opponent castles long. And now I misevaluate the position pretty considerably. I start believing that my position isn't that bad. Because my opponent hasn't really punished me that much. Like, my pawns are fine. Life is okay. I'm going to play g6, bishop g7 at some point. I'm going to have like some diagonal here. Maybe I get some attack in some lines. I don't know. It looks pretty interesting. So I'm like, okay, if I'm trying to go for an attack with my opponent's king castled over here, I think I can probably do that. And I play the move queen a5. And I decide, okay, you've kind of weakened your queen side by doing this. I'm targeting this pawn. I'm going to go with a move like pawn to b5, queen b6, and like start pushing the pawns over here, make some progress maybe. Maybe my opponent's going to panic and like make a mistake. But the position is plus 1.6, which is absurd. Like, I would not have believed you if you had said the position is plus 1.6. But somehow it is. King to b1. I continue with my plan. I play the move pawn to b5. The idea being that I'm simply going to start aggressing the king. I'm going to play a move like pawn to b4 next. And then there's going to be issues. And he's going to lose and get checkmated. It's going to be really cool. But no, that's not what's going to happen. My opponent goes pawn to f4. And I realize here that his attack is much faster. Because if I go with a move like pawn to b4, I'm actually just helping my opponent with a move like knight c4, queen c7. And this position is already losing. e5, my knight has to come back, and then I think I just get mated. Like, I think I probably just get mated here. Bishop h3, for example. I mean, this position is awful. This position is just genuinely awful. I can't deal with this. Takes. Where is the mate? I guess there's no mate just yet, but knight b6 at the very least. And if here, knight e5, if I take queen a4, king d8, d6. Okay, yeah, we can end the line there. Yeah, this is just terrible. And I decided, okay, I don't want to allow my opponent's knight in with tempo. That seems awful. So my attack is over. And I think for a while on how to continue my play. The problem with this move pawn to h6, by the way, I haven't touched on this yet, because I've been wanting to play pawn to h6 this whole time, almost. Pawn to h6 doesn't work. Pawn to h6 doesn't work because my opponent takes the knight now. That's why. And g takes f6, my bishop does not get the h6 square anymore. I have to waste another move to play pawn to h5, and then bishop has to go to h6 and come out like this, and that takes time. And I don't have time in this position. If I had the pawn on h7 or h5, perfect. This would be amazing. Like, for example, if we play h5 here, this position isn't even that bad. It's just not that bad. I go bishop h6, I get my bishop developed, life is good. But okay, I'm not able to do that right now. And instead of doing that, I decide, okay, my opponent's pawns are coming down towards my king. I need to get my king out of danger now. I cannot wait for this bishop to move to short castle. And I decided that the best plan is to castle long in this position. And I thought that eventually I will be able to get these pieces out. I'd be able to move my king over, rook to c8. Maybe I even have an attack still. I don't know. It could be cool. Maybe I play like knight b6 or something, and like my queen doesn't get trapped somehow. But in reality, this position is very, very bad, and I am not going to win this game. My opponent goes to knight to b3, which makes logical sense. I bring the queen back to b6. By the way, the last 4 moves were inaccuracies. And my opponent here does the thing that I wanted him to do the entire game, and he takes on f6, which is a horrible move. Horrible move. I have no idea why he did this, but I have even less idea why I played the move that I did. I've been talking to you the whole time about how much I would love him to take on f6, because I would take with the g-pawn, I'd get my bishop out, and life is good. Well, life's not good, but life is significantly better than it once was. instead of doing that, I think for like, I don't even know, like 5 seconds, and I autopilot knight f6. I mean, I'm just so good at chess, you know, like I'm just amazing at chess. This move is just, I don't even know what to say about this move. This move is so awful. I had the plan in mind. I'm not saying, oh, this is like the engine idea to take on g6. I was thinking about taking on g6 like the entire game, and yet somehow I take with the knight on f6. By the way, even if I take on g6 here, the position's still +1 because my opponent can, I don't even know, what is the idea here? Queen e2, I guess, to put pressure here and pressure down here and play a move maybe like a4, I guess. I guess this is the main idea. But it would have at least given me a fighting chance. And that's really, really disappointing. That's really, really disappointing. This is the last chance I get this game, by the way. Knight f6. My opponent goes pawn to e5, which is an excellent move, by the way. Excellent move. And the point is, I'm actually not in time to save my position because this bishop is going to come with check in many lines. In reality, I should probably bring the knight back to d7. But I thought this was just so depressing that I didn't want any part of it. Like, my opponent can do whatever. c4, for example. I play a move like pawn to b4. I try to keep it locked. Queen f5, bishop h3, put some pressure down here. He's going to take at some point. The rook is going to get the open file. And my poor pieces on the king side are never going to get a chance to play the game. They're never going to get a chance to play. So I decided that I'm just going to take on e5. And hopefully my opponent takes back. I will take on d5. And then maybe I can survive that position. However, what happens next goes from bad to worse. Takes on e5, which I thought wasn't even any good because I would take on d5, and I start to realize that the position is much worse than it seems because after I take on d5, I realize that this diagonal is very, very strong, and now I'm probably just going to lose the game by force. Already, the best move here is pawn to c4, which my opponent promptly plays, a move I didn't even see, by the way. I didn't even see this move. And it's not even about the fact that my opponent has these diagonals. This is just part of it. Now he's just actually going to, after I move my knight, now he's just going to trade rooks. He's going to open up the c file, and my king is getting mated, which is just so sad. It's just so sad. I decide, okay, I think that taking this pawn is a little bit bad because I let my opponent's bishop get in the game. After pawn to e6, I thought this was just so depressing. My bishop just doesn't have a good square. Like e7, I can come out this way. What am I doing like this? I don't understand. And my opponent's plan is so easy. He's gonna play rook d3. He's gonna double up. He's gonna come here. I play move like bishop e7. He goes rook here. Actually, that's incorrect. Sorry. No, he plays rook f3. Okay, I didn't see this. I didn't see this. But again, the position is very, very bad. So instead of doing that, I kind of think that I'm tricking my opponent, and I play this move knight to b4. And the point of this move is that after he trades the rooks, I'm going to take back with the queen, and I'm going to have some ideas on his king with moves like queen d1 check, and maybe I get something, and maybe I don't lose immediately. And if he plays the move bishop h3, I go e6, and white is worse here, which is very, very nice. Of course, my opponent's queen has to move, and then I can even take, which is nice. Takes queen d3 here. This is the engine line here, and he's actually just losing a pawn by force. These pawns are just very bad for him. Oh, I guess not. I mean, I can take here. No. Oh, this is a check. My bad. But okay, takes king c7. The position's actually just better for black now. Black is simply up a pawn. He did sacrifice a pawn a little bit ago when he gave up the pawn on d5. And there's some ideas there, but it really doesn't feel like black is up any material here. My opponent goes pawn to c4. I go knight to b4. My opponent trades the rooks. And now my opponent finds a very, very nice move. He finds this idea, queen to e4. And now, again, I miscalculate, and this attack on his king is actually nothing. There's nothing here, which is very, very unfortunate, and his attack on my king is a lot more deadly. So, I have to do something. I decide I'm going to go for it, Hail Mary style. I'm going to go queen d1. He's going to play the move knight to c1. And then maybe we get something, like if the queen moves, he's going to have some problems. It's going to be a mistake. And then I start calculating the position properly, and I realize, first of all, my opponent's threatening bishop to h3 check to win my queen by force. If I play a move like pawn to e6, I thought my opponent could go like bishop g2, and I just lose immediately because my opponent comes here with the queen like this. If I go king g8, king b8, it's actually just a worse version because now this is a mate on the board, and it's all just coming down. It's all just coming down. So after knight to c1, I realized my mistake. I go queen to d4, trying to trade the queens. If he trades the queens, I'm not that worse. I mean, I'm still losing. cb5, ab5, bishop b5. My pieces are still need a couple more moves to develop. I mean, probably knight b3, bishop e7, and at least he wins a pawn, right? At least he wins a pawn. But okay, that doesn't happen. He knows how to play the game properly, and he plays the move queen to a8 check. I have to go king to c7, of course, and my opponent takes on b5. And now, as you can see, the attack for white is very, very strong. A takes b5, check. I decide to go up to c6, which may not have been the best option. Actually, it most definitely wasn't. Probably I should have gone back to c8, but I just couldn't deal with this position. I just thought I was obviously losing. After a move like bishop to g2, my king is cut off on the back rank. I have no chances to win here. I have no chances even to survive. So I go king to c6, my opponent goes bishop g2 check, and I play the move knight back to d5 to defend myself feudally. My opponent goes queen a8, which is another nice move I didn't see. And now I'm simply going to be losing the knight. I go king b6, he takes the knight. Mate is on the board now. I go e6, queen b7, king a5, queen a7, king b4, and queen to a3, check, mate. My opponent lost some style points here. Could have gone a3 mate, but okay, it doesn't really matter at this stage of the game. This game was very, very interesting. This game was really, really difficult to play for me. I feel like I made many mistakes, but in all honesty, I don't think that my play was that bad. I think I made a lot of natural moves, like this idea of queen a5, b5, going for this attack. Wasn't that bad, I thought maybe I could get something going here. And really, of course, the worst move in the game was this move, knight takes f6. G takes f6 is clearly better. But I don't think I made that many mistakes. I really don't think I made that many mistakes. I don't think I made that many bad moves. In reality, the opening with this queen c2 idea in d4 is just much more powerful than I had given it any credit for before. And really, what this shows is that I need to study my Alapins, and that the Alapin is probably just a weakness for me. It's just a weakness for me. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, do all the normal YouTubers tell you to do, and yeah, that's it. Go try the Alapin, because clearly it's a really good opening for white. Anyway, that's good evening and good night.